Hi everyone, I'm Courtney. In this video, we're learning English together. Today, I'm talking about things that I learned in science class. I took science classes growing up. I took different science classes. I remember we did experiments. Experiments are when you have a hypothesis you're trying to prove. My first experiment I remember doing is when I was very little. We made volcanoes and we put baking soda and vinegar into the volcanoes. We put baking soda and vinegar and the volcanoes erupted. The volcanoes erupted because of the chemical reaction between the baking soda and the vinegar. It was one of the first experiments that I did in science class. Another experiment I remember is creating tiny rockets out of small plastic containers. I had a lot of fun doing the experiment, but there was a big problem. I didn't write down any of the data. I didn't record any of the data of the experiment. So, when I received my grade, when I got my grade back, I got an F. It's the only F I've ever gotten in my life. In the US, our grades work like this. A is the best grade, and F is failed. There's A, B, C. If you get an A, B, or C, you pass. But if you get a D or an F, you fail. This time I got an F. I got an F because I didn't record any of the data for my science experiment. I remember I didn't understand why. Looking back now, of course I got an F. I didn't record anything about the experiment. I didn't record any of my observations. I didn't record any of the heights that the rocket reached. I didn't record how much liquid we put in the rockets, how much fuel we put in them. I didn't record anything. When I was in middle school, I took biology. Biology is a type of science that deals with bodies. So there's human biology that looks at humans, and there's also animal biology that looks at the different systems in animals' bodies. We did two things in biology that I remember, and both of them were with dissecting animals. So we dissected or took apart a frog. So there was a dead frog, and we dissected the frog. We looked at its fat cells, we looked at its stomach, we looked at its digestive system, like its intestines, and we looked at all the different parts of the frog. I remember we had to use a scalpel to cut the frog open. I didn't really like dissecting the frog very much. But it is interesting because inside a frog, their fat cells are bright orange. So that was kind of interesting. We also had to dissect an owl pellet. Owl pellets are interesting because it's when an owl regurgitates or spits back up the bones and fur from the animals that they eat. So an owl eats an animal, and its digestive system can't process the bones and the fur of that animal. So it spits it back up, and it comes out of the owl's mouth, and it's called an owl pellet. So we dissected the owl pellet, and our job was to reconstruct the skeletons of the animals that it ate. So I remember we worked in pairs, we worked in groups of 2. It was a group project, and we worked together to see if we could find all of the bones that would make up the skeleton of the mice or voles or whatever animals the owl had eaten. I also took another type of science called chemistry. Chemistry was hard for me. I had to work kind of hard to get a good grade in chemistry. Chemistry, to me, feels like science plus math. Science plus math was hard for me. But I tried my best, and the teacher liked me, so she usually let me correct my tests to gain points back, to improve my grade. In chemistry, we learned about the periodic table. So the periodic table is a chart that lists all of the elements that make up matter. For example, on the periodic table, you'll find things like helium, things like calcium, things like iron. What else is on the periodic table? Oxygen. There are metals, solids, and gases on the periodic table. And each element has a number associated with it, and each element has different properties. For example, some elements react with other elements. We did an experiment where we would add different elements together, and it was really interesting because it would create a chemical reaction and they would change color. For example, we would add 2 liquids together, and maybe the liquids were yellow and green, but when you added them together, they equaled or created orange. So that was really cool. We also did experiments where we added 2 elements together and it created things like heat or light, or sometimes it even froze. It was really interesting. In my science class, we also learned about the way the Earth was formed. So we learned about things like tectonic plates. Tectonic plates are what make up the Earth's surface, the Earth's crust. It's the utmost layer in the different layers of the Earth, of the soil. And so at the center of the Earth, there's the core, and the core is made up of molten lava, molten rock, and it's super hot. The Earth's core is super hot. This lava cools. It cools and it creates the soil and the dirt and everything that is at the top part of the Earth that we walk on, which is so interesting. I lived in Hawaii, and so some of this stuff was very interesting to me because we had active volcanoes with magma or lava on the island. Magma is the name for lava when it's under the Earth's crust, and lava is the name for lava when it's on top, where we can all observe it. Overall, I liked science. I don't think science is my strong suit. I don't think science is something that I'm naturally good at, but I do like to ask a lot of questions. And asking questions is a big part of a lot of different science experiments. What about you? What did you do in your science classes? Do you like science? Let me know in the comments. I'm Courtney. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!